So cheers guys, thanks for coming, lovely morning and all that. So it was a bit sunnier in Dublin now, I have to say. I heard it was sunny in Cork all the time, so I'm a bit disappointed. But I'm up here for two reasons essentially. The first is that Niamh got in touch with Brezzy and he was too expensive. The second, which is the real reason, is that I have a passion, a genuine passion for something that transformed my life, professionally and personally, in a positive way. That's me in 2009. Sad, clearly, depressed, anxious, very unhealthy, and just not in a good place in body and mind. That's me 10 minutes before I came in. Clearly very happy, very healthy, relatively successful, and in a good place both in body and mind. But how do I make that transformation from that guy to this guy? Well, I'll tell you a bit about me first. So I've been working in Morgan McKinley for the past 5 years, and I'm the IT recruitment manager. Prior to that, I worked in car sales, so for 5 years as well. So I'm a used car salesman turned recruiter. So unfortunately, when you hear that, or when you see my profile, you think I'm as dodgy as this fella. I get that quite a lot. But that's not the case, and I've had some success in both companies. So while I was at Merlin selling cars, as Niamh said, I did very well. I was the top salesman for 5 years, but I also sold more cars than anyone in Ireland from 2006 until 2009. So I did very well. And then since joining Morgan McKinley in 2011, I've been one of the top performers globally, and I now manage the most successful team. So I've done reasonably well in both those positions. But I'm also a marathon runner, as Niamh mentioned. So I've ran 6 marathons since 2010, Dublin 3 times, New York once, New York twice, London once, and I'm going to do Berlin in next month, 4 weeks away, 5 weeks away. The plan for Berlin is to do a PB, so that's 15 minutes quicker than my previous time in London, which is a big ask now that I say it out loud. But I guess for perspective, anyone that can run, only 1% of marathon runners will run under 3 hours. That's even less to run what I'm going to try and do in Berlin. But I'm training extremely hard at the moment, and I guess just for perspective as well, like the times are irrelevant, it's more just to show you how I've progressed. I think anyone that does a marathon, it's a massive accomplishment on itself. But I'm currently being trained by a runner called Gary O'Hanlon. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the running scene, but he has been working very hard. I think in order to do what I'm trying to do, I have to get some assistance. So Gary has been running about 50 to 80 miles a week, 6 to 7 days a week, sometimes twice a day, and around 10 hours, I'd say. So the week kind of consists of hill sprints, long runs, tempo runs, all this different stuff. And it also consists of a healthy enough diet, and what I call body maintenance. And body maintenance is basically looking after your core, doing planks, all this. If you don't do that, you'll get injured 100%. So you need to look after yourself. So as you can see, I have a passion for running, clearly, but I also have a passion for something that's called active living. And active living is trying to enjoy life 7 days a week. But I believe that's down to a couple of key ways that I choose to live my life outside of work. I also believe that the success that I've had to date is down to a couple of key decisions that I made in 2009. Which leads me to this. So, I most definitely wasn't always like this. In 2007, my family fell apart. And I had to care for my mother on my own for a number of years. And she subsequently died in December 2008 after a short battle with cancer. So that turned my life upside down. And what happened was I went into kind of a self-destruct mode, and I was suffering from what I now know was a quite severe depression. But I wasn't helping myself. I was out drinking all the time, I was partying all the time, And I was just trying to mask what was going on in my head. But I gained weight, I had anxiety issues, and I just wasn't in a very good place. And had I kept on going the way I was going, I can pretty much say that I certainly wouldn't be here, happy, talking to all you people. But I don't know if I'd be here at all. It was that bad. And to top it off, 2009, as we all remember, was a pretty shitty year in general. And remember, I was in car sales. So no one could buy cars even if they wanted to. So trying to sell cars back then was zero crack and highly stressful. So I guess the best way to describe how I felt, there's two forms of stress I feel in life. You have your work stress and you have your personal stress. So obviously work wasn't going as well because no one was buying cars, and I just felt like I had a bit of a weight on my shoulder. So a big heavy dumbbell on this shoulder. And then the personal life wasn't well because I was kind of trying to deal with my mother passing away, and that was my personal life. So I had the weight of the world on my shoulders. And that's how I felt all the time. But had you known me back then, you wouldn't have had a clue. I think men, and most men in here probably agree, are pretty poor at describing how they feel or what's going on. And I was very guilty of that. I still am. My girlfriend would probably say I still am. But I wanted to change, and I wanted to feel better. I knew I had to do something. So I did. I went to the gym every now and then, and I played football a bit. But I never went for a run because I thought it would be very boring. But I remember one specific Sunday after a weekend of heavy boozing, and you know when you have that fear on the Sunday, and it's even nodding, head's nodding there. So that was, I had that, but I had a much worse case because I used to get it very, very bad, and anxiety levels were really, really high. And I thought I was going to have a panic attack. It was that bad. So I just said, right, I need to get some fresh air, get some exercise and get my body moving or do something. So I went for, I put the headphones in and I went for a little run. I went in Dublin, I went to Ball's Bridge, which is about 4 miles away. And I felt okay. Actually, my legs felt okay, and you know, I was quite surprised that I got that far without losing my breath. But the key thing that I found with it was afterwards when I came home, I was like, Jesus, my mind got a bit of a workout. So I felt a little bit, I felt that the weight had been lifted ever so slightly. The 2 dumbbells that I spoke about there were kind of lifted ever so slightly. But I never thought for a minute that moment would be a massive game changer for me. So in 2009, I decided that I'd sign up for the Dublin Marathon. So this is something that I gave no thought to. I just needed to find something to accompany my newfound interest in running, and it gave me a bit of a goal. And I didn't give it the respect that it warranted either, to be fair. I also made a choice in the company that I was working in, Merlin, the car sales place I told you about, that I was going to try and break the sales record for the most cars sold in 1 month. Now bear in mind, that's April 2009. So it was a stupid goal, ridiculous. The previous sales record was broken in 2007, January. Now that's when the Celtic Tiger was roaring. Anyone could get a loan, anyone could buy a car. And I'd gladly sell it to them. So it was a silly goal, but I wanted to go big. So that's what it was. So I gave up drink. I worked every day. Worked every hour I could. Got to the phone first before every other salesman. And I got to every customer first. And I sold 60 cars in 26 days. Breaking the previous record of 58 that was made in 2007. So for perspective, I think at that stage, in April 2009, if a car dealership, a full dealership of 10 salesmen, had sold that many cars, they would have been delighted. So for me to do it on my own was fairly insane. And I remember at that time, it went quite viral, because I was getting emails off these guys in the States saying, I heard your story, and I'm inspired, and I'm going through a tough time. And what had happened is my sales trainer, who used to train people globally, went around and explained that, you know, it's tough times, but this guy in Ireland is going through a tough time. went out and did this, and I got lovely emails from all these guys. So I was a bit of a celebrity in the motor trade for a couple of months. But I've actually no idea how I did that. I know I worked very hard. And I managed to extract €750,000 from 60 different people. Again, no idea how I did it, but I certainly know it helped. If I wasn't running, looking after my body and my mind, that record would never have been broken. I had heaps more energy, but I had a new positive outlook for life, which I hadn't had in years. But I also would never have discovered what you can achieve when you apply yourself properly to something and you accompany it with something positive externally, like running. This is a good slide because if you would have asked me in January 2009 to go break the sales record, I would have said it's impossible and I wouldn't be able. April 2009, different story. Embarrassing picture. So this is the first marathon that I ran, and it's kind of funny when I look at this because running now, I know that I'm wearing all the wrong stuff for a marathon. To start with, the runners that I'm wearing are for a 6-foot person that weighs about 180 pounds. They're wide fit. I've no idea what I was doing. I'm wearing cotton socks, so I had blisters all over my feet. Gets worse. I'm wearing football shorts, so I had chafing in areas that I won't get into, but I just did, kind of. And I'm also wearing an Under Armour vest, and so my nipples were totally bleeding, which was horrendous. And lastly, I'm wearing a Man United jersey. The marathon runs through some colourful places in Dublin, and there was a couple of people, I think, still out from the night before. So I was getting bleeding heckled by people for wearing a Man United jersey. But it doesn't matter what I was wearing, because essentially I was running for myself, and I was running for my mental health. That's me there, looking awesome, obviously, more recently. But when people look at me now, they just assume that I've always run, and that I've always been a high achiever. And that 100% isn't true. I made a choice. And I still live this exact same way. And I've had some more great success, such as that story in 2009. But I run because it helps me deal with the shit everyday life can throw at you. And I run because I feel amazing both in body and mind after, and I get a bit of a workout mentally. And I lose myself in my thoughts for a few hours. But how does this really benefit your career? Well, for me anyway, I have very little stress. I can deal with change very easily. I have more energy than most people, and I have a very positive outlook for life in general. I also rarely get sick, which is a massive plus. So I think those positive feelings alone would put anyone in the right place. So at the moment I'm lucky enough that I manage the highest performing team, or one of the highest performing teams in Morgan McKinley, and possibly amongst our competitors. But as a manager of a high performing team, I try to be a living example. So the guys, they're not marathon runners, but they do see how I live, they see the energy that I have, and they aspire to be a bit like me in some way. I think the hardest part about running is going running, or trying something new, or starting something new. So I'm not standing up here saying, go run a marathon and all your problems will be solved. But I am saying that by exercising your body and your mind in whatever way possible will definitely improve your mental well-being. I'm going to 100% improve your performance in the workplace. That's my story. Thank you.